Hey friends, my name's
Hello.
Gabrielle and welcome to FrumiousReads, and this is
Christian.
And we are here to announce something really cool today before you watch the rest of this video. So, for a while now, we've been playing with the idea of starting a Harry Potter podcast.
I'm 25 now, so.
Yeah, so it doesn't count because you were young and now you're old and you remember nothing.
Oh, I am not old.
Anyway, so he's never read the full book series, and I am a huge fan of the book series and the movies, and so we thought it'd be really fun to get together and talk about our opinions on the books and how they translate to the movies, and also keep up to date with all the new Fantastic Beasts stuff that keeps coming out. So we have decided to include a first look at what our podcast will be, and give you guys kind of like a behind-the-scenes look at one of the topics we talk about. So in this video, we're going to talk about our thoughts and opinions on the ending of Fantastic Beasts, Crimes of Grindelwald, what we think are some possible theories and explanations for it, and our overall review of the ending of the movie. And if you guys want to know more about our podcast, which I haven't even said the name of.
What was the name again?
It is Cunning and Loyalty, because I'm a
Ooh.
Slytherin and he's a Hufflepuff, and I feel like that allows us to have really cool, in-depth conversations. But if you guys want to follow us on Instagram, Cunning and Loyalty, follow us on Instagram to stay up to date on when this podcast will be actually live, which should be later on this week, or just subscribe to my YouTube channel to stay updated for when we actually post the first episode. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoy this. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. Okay, so first things first, we are going to start off with our opinions on the Fantastic Beasts Crimes of Grindelwald movie. This part will include spoilers, so if you guys have not yet seen the movie, then I suggest you skip forward about 20 minutes or so in the podcast so that you don't get spoiled. If you guys would like to hear a official review, I have a review uploaded on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/c/frumious, FRUMIOUS, and you guys can check it out there. We are actually going to be discussing specifically what happened in the very last scene of Crimes of Grindelwald. So once again, this is your last warning of spoilers being included. Let's discuss. Christian, What did you think of the final scene between Grindelwald and Credence?
I wouldn't put it past Grindelwald to be lying to Credence about being a Dumbledore. That's just from what we've seen from the entire movie, you know. Grindelwald will say what you want to hear, and you know, giving Credence this powerful name that just imbues, you know, power essentially, this importance kind of to this kid who doesn't even have a name, you know, who's just essentially been a lost little child for his entire life. That's a dream come true to someone, you know. So I wouldn't put it past him lying about that, but I do believe he is a Dumbledore, not for any in-universe reasons, but mainly because it's the end of a movie, it's the last movie twist. That's so like
Generally, that's how they end a movie.
yeah, that's how
twist.
So that's why I believe it's like, yeah, okay, he's a Dumbledore. This is how movies work.
The next movie's be like, and he was not actually a Dumbledore.
Kind of playing both sides.
Yeah, no, I can see that. That's how they end the third one. It's like, oh, you're not actually a Dumbledore, and then movie ending. No, my opinion was rather thoroughly and loudly discussed in my spoiler, in my official review of the Crimes of Grindelwald. I was not a fan of the ending. Mostly for two reasons. One, it goes against what has already been established in Harry Potter canon, which, as someone who does a lot of reviews and is really, you know, I'm very interested in the Harry Potter series specifically. So hearing something that completely goes against canon just doesn't make sense to me. But mostly for two, it just felt so rushed. It was something that was very much like this was Credence's whole storyline. It felt like they forgot his storyline until that very last ending moment. And they were like, oh, we're just gonna make him a Dumbledore and then end the movie type thing. You know, if there had been more of a lead up, more clues dropped in the movie, then I feel like it wouldn't have been so random and out of place at the end.
Right.
You know?
Like if there was more like dropping like, oh, it's, you know, there's maybe another kid out there with an important name.
If they had studied more into like Dumbledore's past specifically, and like there had been clues, and maybe this will be what happens in the next movie, I don't know. But for me personally, already knowing that one, in the actual Harry Potter canon, we haven't established that there are 5 members of the Dumbledore family that we know of, and that's it. And there's only Aberforth, Ariana, and Albus who are the Dumbledore children. It goes against that canon that's already been established to have Credence added in randomly out of nowhere, and have absolutely nobody in the wizarding world know about it, especially if Credence is Grindelwald's, like, secret weapon. And because, like, those points weren't established in the movie, like, because we didn't see the insight into Dumbledore's life, we didn't see, like, the lead up that there could have been a secret sibling that we didn't know about. It felt very sloppy. And I feel like this is part of the J.K. Rowling recent problem that we've been having with her retconning stuff in canon and adding stuff in that just that wasn't either presented, or like it's just completely the first time we're hearing about certain stuff. I love the universe J.K. Rowling has built. I understand that she is like a creative mastermind when it comes to building plots and having secret plot points that all tie together at the very end. But I feel like her work when it comes to book writing and her work when it comes to screenwriting, her like herself as a screenwriter tries to do the same things that she does in her books, but it doesn't come across as well because it's a different medium. Does that make sense? Like in the movies,
it's screenwriting is a completely different thing than novel writing, and what you can do in a novel you don't necessarily can do in a screenplay. Yeah,
and I think that's where there was that lack of like connectivity with the Credence being a Dumbledore. It's like, because in the book, you can drop all those hints and be fine, but in a movie, if it's not right there so the audience can see it, it's completely out of nowhere.
What I'm hoping for the next movie is they kind of explain that a little more. Why he's a Dumbledore, how he's a Dumbledore. Because right now it's more like, how did Lita switch up, her brother and this kid magically that happens to be a Dumbledore? How did that all kind of come to be? Why was he going to America? There's just a lot of questions that we don't have answered yet, and so that's kind of my thing. I wanted more hints to those answers in this movie, but we don't have them, so it's a lot of explanation. I did see the movie again with my brothers. They were mad at me that I watched it without them, so I promised to go watch it with them. And there's a couple of things I picked up in the movie more, but one thing that I really noticed from this movie, and then like it kind of reminded me of watching the other movies, because again I haven't read the books. Right. It's that Albus Dumbledore is very secretive of his life, and it's so secretive to the point that he didn't even tell the Ministry that he can't find Grindelwald because of a blood pact. He just told them like, I can't do it. I'm going to
interrupt you real quick and say, with Albus Dumbledore's characterization and what we know of him from the first 7 Harry Potter books, that is very in character. Yeah. He told absolutely nobody about the whole plan with Harry and the Horcruxes and who Harry was until the very end when he had to. And you see this again in Fantastic Beasts. And so I guess that's where, especially where I get frustrated. It's like, okay, you did so well with continuing the characterization of this one character. Yeah. And so I just don't understand like why that couldn't have been continued with just other things that were in canon, Yeah. I think that's where part of my frustration comes in.
You had this canon thing with Dumbledore being very secretive with his plans. Yes. And then you had this other plot point.
And I feel like if you had kept because Dumbledore is very secretive, if you had focused more on Dumbledore and his secrets and like maybe like had more of him in the movie, then if it could have been a better leading up point to the end reveal. Like you could have shown that he keeps secrets. You could have shown that things about him on file aren't necessarily true. Yeah. And I think that's where they're going to lead, is like somehow, somewhere his family history or his family tree was changed. But because you didn't put that in the movie, and this is all just speculation, when the ending was revealed and there wasn't as much in-depth like poking around about it, or like in-depth like leading up to Credence's real history, then it just didn't make sense. Yeah. And then it was a shock value ending. It was just shock, and then it was over, and it that doesn't always necessarily work.
Yeah. Yeah. No, completely understand. So this movie was very much a setting up. You're setting up your chess pieces in this movie, which fine. Movies do that.
They do.
But there's always a good way and a not so good way in doing that. And this movie just kind of did it in not so good a way, just because there's so many things that are left questioned, and we have to wait for the next movie. Exactly. Which, again, Nothing wrong with that, but
A 2-year wait makes
Yeah.
it harder to accept what we've been giving.
Yeah.
And especially, I feel like this movie you didn't even need to see the first movie for.
Oh,
if they were gonna
didn't know.
No, not if you were gonna use any movie as a setup, it should have been the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one you could have continued building what you set up in the first movie as well as introducing
Yeah.
new points.
But I did like the movie. It was
Yeah.
a very good movie.
It was a good entertainment movie.
Yeah.
It was lots of really shiny, flashy things that you can distract yourself with.
Yeah.
But the actual content
Yeah.
of the movie was so jumbled and distracting that it didn't make sense by the end. Too many things were happening.
too many things. But kind of going back to the ending,
Yes,
it
yes.
was awesome. Just
Yeah.
Credence like getting a wand and then just like him hearing his name, revealing that he's a Dumbledore, and then shooting out this bolt of magical energy that pretty much just goes through a mountain, and having a phoenix flaming right behind him. That was awesome.
That was
I loved it. I loved
amazing
that.
picturesque scene
Yeah.
to end on, yes.
Yeah, and you know him being surprised at just how much power he actually has. I love that.
Although I don't get why he got angry. Because he doesn't know who Dumbledore is. He knows nothing about the wizarding world.
Okay, I think he got angry because like there's this guy, this magical guy who was kind of taking care of him a bit, even in the first movie as
Grindelwald, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So giving this magical kid a wand, which he's always wanted since the first movie, telling him he's magical and your family wants to kill you. You who doesn't even know he has a family.
Yeah.
I get why he would be upset.
I could see that too.
And again, Grindelwald is very, very seductive I'm using the same words, but he's very seductive in the sense that he's able to give people what they want or tell them.
Like a silver tongue, like that's what they said.
Oh yeah,
that's why they cut out his tongue in the beginning.
Yeah, so I get why he would be angry. He's like, I don't even know my name, and my family wants to kill me.
Right.
So
I honestly am this is more of a hope than like a belief, but I'm really hoping that Grindelwald was lying. Because there was a lot of lead up to the fact that Grindelwald just needed Credence.
Yeah.
Right? He needed him to win the war. And Grindelwald has some of those seer capabilities where he can see the future.
With that magical hookah smoking.
I know, that was really cool.
That was cool.
I really enjoyed
the hookah smoking
that.
skull. You're just like,
Yeah.
hey, it's a caterpillar.
Yeah. Yeah, Lewis Carroll made a surprise appearance. No, but I think that Grindelwald is manipulative enough to definitely be like, I just need this kid on my side no matter what, and I need him to kill Dumbledore. So I think it's pretty likely that he did lie to Credence at the end. I don't know if you remember this from the 7th movie. I think they touched on it a little bit.
Yeah.
So in this, for those of you guys who may not remember, Ariana was a magical child who was having like bursts of accidental magic outside one day, and Muggle children came over and saw her doing that, and they kind of tortured her until she stopped displaying magic, and in essence became an obscurial, I guess, later on.
Oh, what Credence was.
Yeah. Ariana's father went after the Muggle boys, and he was sent away to Azkaban.
Yeah.
So let's say that the mom of the Dumbledore kids, like if she maybe had gotten pregnant after the father was sent away with someone else, and realized it was dangerous because she was the one staying home taking care of Ariana, who had these big like outbursts of magic like how Credence does. So if she had become pregnant again and just decided it wasn't safe to keep the baby at home with Ariana's outbursts of magic and sent the baby away on the ship, which is where Lita found them, then that could be an explanation for why maybe he wasn't on record, because she didn't tell anyone.
Yeah. It would make a lot of sense. And also kind of if Credence stays with Grindelwald, if he stays kind of evil, he's part of the enemy team now. I would understand why they would kind of not want to talk about him, because Sirius Black, I remember this from the movies. He was talking about was it Little Lestrange or Bellatrix? He was talking about Bellatrix Lestrange, and he was talking about how his family basically burned out like the people they didn't want to talk about, and they didn't talk about them. So I would understand that. It's like, okay, here's my half brother who tried to kill me. We reached out and we tried to bring him back, but at the end of the day, he was just evil and couldn't do it, or like.
Yeah.
So I would get why they wouldn't want to talk about him and why they wouldn't want to really bring him up a bit, because it's like, oh, I have a family member that was part of Grindelwald.
Right.
Yeah. So
see, my mind went to more like if he was involved in the family tree, then the mother must have hidden him somehow, because they're shown like everyone is on the family tree, like even if they get burned off, there's still a place for them, so there would still be like this random burned portrait for another sibling. So I'm wondering if the mother just hid him completely, like removed him entirely from the family tree.
Yeah.
And then just sent him away to live maybe with another magical family in America.
And technically that would also mean that he's not really a Dumbledore. He's a whatever the mother's last name was.
Barebone?
Barebone? He would be a Barebone. Yeah.
Are you meaning Dumbledore, like the mom?
Yeah, the mom. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't know her name. I don't know her maiden name.
Yeah, so in essence, Credence technically isn't a Dumbledore. He's a half sibling of Albus, but not the Dumbledore, because he didn't get his father's name.
Right.
He got someone else's name or something like that. So there's a lot that are speculation.
There's a lot of speculation going around. I think the main one is that I've heard that he is just a Dumbledore sibling who was just removed because of his alliance choices, or he was erased somehow from public knowledge because of his alliance with Grindelwald. I've heard that Grindelwald's lying. That's a big one, because it just doesn't make sense otherwise for him to be a Dumbledore without there being some kind of huge backstory that they have to explain. And then the Dumbledore, he's a half sibling that none of the rest of the Dumbledore family knew about.
Yeah, and
are the primary three theories I've heard. I've heard some other ones too. There's some very interesting ones. There's one involving like a time turner, which I thought was really cool.
That
would be
interesting.
An interesting one where it was like Albus, I don't know, it was like a time turner thing, because McGonagall is also in this movie, even though she shouldn't be because she wasn't born yet.
I don't know.
According to Pottermore, like her birthday is after this movie, like after this timeline of the movie, and yet she was in this movie. I mean, the last theory, which is what I originally went with, and I'm now trying to be more optimistic and not fall into so much, is just that this is just really sloppy writing, including him. But we're going to try and avoid that until the next movie, because I'm trying to be hopeful.
Using in-universe stuff, though, I do believe it's kind of like a combination of others. He is a half-sibling, and Grindelwald is lying to him that he is a Dumbledore. He's related to the Dumbledores, but is not an actual Dumbledore. And they probably just didn't talk about him, because, again, why would you want to talk about a sibling who was part of Grindelwald's team?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that. But
It could be. It's a very interesting theory to talk about. And I'd love to hear from you guys if you guys have heard of any really cool other theories on explaining who Credence actually is, whether you think that Grindelwald was telling the truth or was lying, and is he actually a Dumbledore sibling, or will we still continue to learn to who he really is? But so without further ado, we are going to continue on into discussing the
going into the very beginning.
Back to the beginning here, avoiding all this madness and going and starting with the original chapter 1 and 2 of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
All right, you ready?
Yes.
Let's do this.
All right, so that was our first behind-the-scenes look of Cunning Loyalty. We would love to know what you guys think of it. Let us know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, as well as your Crimes of Grindelwald theories and your opinions on Credence's identity. That's all we have for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and we will talk to you guys later. Okay, bye.